All right, now in some other battleground news we're following along. Well, listen to this, folks. There's going to be new battleground in the federal riding of Peterborough. Why? Because former Conservative MP Dean Del Mastro resigned his post this afternoon. He did that in the House of Commons. Del Mastro was convicted Friday on 3 counts of violating Canada's Election Act. Election fraud, folks. So today he tendered his resignation. It's effective immediately. He did that during question period, or just after question period, earlier this afternoon. This comes after the Conservative government threw support behind an NDP motion to suspend the disgraced Peterborough MP. That motion vote would have happened tonight. MPs were scheduled to vote on the matter, and he would have lost his salary. By resigning, he keeps his pension. Del Mastro shared some emotional parting words with his fellow members while stepping down.
I hope someday to be back in this place, but if I don't, always keep in mind, it's a simple chair, but it represents the hopes and dreams and futures of thousands that you represent and millions across the country. Never take it for granted.
All right, Dean Del Mastro there in his farewell speech. That's Greg Selinger, and a majority of Manitobans want the Premier, Greg Selinger, to step down following his NDP caucus revolt. A new poll shows that 57% of Manitoba voters feel Selinger should resign as leader of the province. Meanwhile, just 14% say he should stay on. The new numbers come out days after Selinger reshuffled his cabinet, and he was forced to do that. Why? Because 5 of his ministers quit on him. They just quit. They're unhappy with his leadership. Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Paul Davis is facing his first test today as voters head to the polls in a by-election. Voters in the riding of Conception Bay South, CBS as they say, will elect a new MHA to replace former Cabinet Minister Terry French. Newfoundlanders will also head to the polls in 2 other by-elections this month, including one in the riding of former Premier Tom Marshall. Marshall stepped down as the MHA for Fort Humber East over the weekend. Now, the candidates vying to be Vancouver's next mayor squared off in a debate last night at a university in downtown Vancouver. Incumbent Gregor Robertson was under attack from all sides. Bryn Weiss has the details live from our Vancouver listening post. And I keep saying, Bryn, every time I talk about this, Vancouver, they're really getting upset. Yes, they're getting upset. They're having a knockdown fight out there. What's going on with Fight Night in Vancouver?
Yeah, that's right, David. This is turning into quite an interesting battleground to cover. Last night's debate was more heated than we've seen in some of the other 7 or 8 debates we've had in this campaign so far. And as you mentioned, Gregor Robertson was really taking the brunt of the attacks, both from Cope on the left as well as Kirk LaPointe and the NPA on the right. Notably, I think Kirk LaPointe got in a couple good shots, and he got one in early when he accused Gregor Robertson's other Vision councillors of being trained seals. Let's watch.
Your council votes as a bloc. I mean, they're trained seals the aquarium would be proud to exhibit.
Mr. LaPointe, you said at the beginning of this campaign that you would not have personal attacks, that you would resign, actually, if this got negative and personal, and you're calling Vancouver councillors trained seals.
Well,
name me a time.
And David, there were about 200 people or so in the audience last night, and that's a pretty big crowd for what we've seen in these debates. Some have been bigger, some have been smaller. But as you know, with so many debates in these municipal campaigns, it's really hard to score knockout punches because there's just so many shots going back and forth. And of course, there's another debate today, earlier, that happened in the day for students out at the university. There's another point that came up, of course, in last night's debate, David, and we've seen this in every municipal election over the past few years, and that is subways. Yes, subways. Even here in Vancouver, they want to build subways. They just don't agree on how best to do it or which candidate can do it the cheapest. Let's watch the exchange now over subways from last night.
By the time you get it built, you're going to qualify for a senior's discount.
All right, okay. I'm not sure exactly what that means, Mr. LaPointe. But I'm curious what an affordable Broadway subway looks like. How do you say, do you do cut and cover construction and
no,
impact the business?
I believe I have a better chance of having a deal with the federal government and the provincial government than you do, sir.
Okay. Because of your work as mayor?
We'll move on to the next topic.
Any experience working with the federal or provincial government as an elected official? No.
So, David, we know what the polls say. They still show Gregor Robertson ahead of Kirk LaPointe with just about 12 days to go now, I guess, before the November 15th election. But we've talked about this last week. We're talking about it this week. Things are getting a little nasty out here on the West Coast. David?
Yeah, no kidding. And now one of the things that Gregor Robertson has been hammering LaPointe at up until what I guess about yesterday is, where the heck's your platform, Mr. LaPointe, new NPA guy? But apparently LaPointe does have a platform now. Is it thick, big, pink, purple, yellow? What does it say in it?
Yeah, it's a purple binder, David, and it's a big one. It's quite a lot of points, 60 planks in all, if you can believe it. And yes, this was the big criticism of Vision against the NPA party, that they hadn't released their platform, even though advanced voting has now begun in Vancouver. The NPA did come out with their platform just yesterday, David, and among their promises, some surprises, some not so surprising points, they're going to freeze property taxes at the rate of inflation for at least 1 year, while they can go through the books and figure out where they might find some savings. They're also going to allow free parking on Sundays and on holidays outside of the downtown core. David, parking in Vancouver is impossible to find. It's like a four-leaf clover. If you find a spot, you want to keep your car there for a month. Well, now Kirk LaPointe is saying he's going to make it more accessible, free parking outside the downtown core on Sundays and holidays. He's also talked a lot about making the Vancouver City Hall more open, more accountable, less closed off to the public and to the media. And in so doing, he's going to create the position of an ombudsman for the city to deal with the resident complaints. And he's also going to start a lobbyist registry at City Hall. When it comes to finances, David, the goal of the NPA is to shave 3% or $36 million a year from Vancouver's $1.2 billion operating budget. Critics say that's just far too optimistic and that he's not going to find those savings. Kirk LaPointe says he's going to start by getting rid of all the communications staffers that Gregor Robertson has hired recently. Kirk LaPointe says, of course, the city now no longer deals with media. They have an entire bureaucracy to stop media requests and to stop information from getting out of City Hall.
All right, Bryn Weiss in Vancouver tonight. Bryn, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.